Today I'm going to be making a linen and canvas tote bag with an inner pocket using this fabric which features one of my own designs. You can see that. It's a really nice natural linen, natural luxury linen, and I got this design digitally printed onto it, and I normally make lampshades from these fabrics. Today I have to make a bag for my mother's birthday, and I thought I would go through the process to show you how it's done, and it will also serve as a reminder for myself how to do it, because I don't make bags very often. I'm not really much of a sewer. So I'm going to use these scraps of canvas that I had. This is a really nice thick canvas that will really reinforce the bag. This will be the lining. And this is slightly softer, maybe a tighter weave of canvas with some texture. So I'm going to use this for the handles. So I need 4-inch strips for each handle. So I'll mark off 8 inches to cut. And 4. So cut your strips, preparation for later. About 30 inches long, just to be sure. You can get away with 26 inches. But it depends on you what length of handles you want for your tote. And cut the strip in half. And there you have 2 strips. Put these to one side for more. So I want to make a bag that's wider than it is long, really. And it's going to have a box bottom, like a square bottom. So I'm going to cut some squares out of 2 corners, and then it will be a square bottom. So I want this to measure 15 by 19 across. So I'll allow for the hem. So I'll measure 16 inches from the bottom. I apologise if my floor is creaking. It's very old parquet, it's very broken. So we will cut. I've doubled this over, this canvas. My scissors aren't the sharpest. I need to buy some more. Okay, and now we're going to cut the box bottom and cut those out. So this is the bottom of the bag. It's going to cut 2 squares either side. think I'm going to do 3.5 inches in. So I really need to buy some new scissors. And on the other side. A bit more. Come on. Okay. So now you have this shape. This is the lining of the bag. So now I can use this as a template for the outer fabric. Just mark around that. I think I'll switch to using a biro because I can't really see the pencil very clearly, and this is going to be on the inside anyway, you won't see it. Do want to be as accurate as possible because it makes the sewing part easier. So this is the outer fabric. It's ready to be sewn. And because I need to turn this inside out, once they're sewn together, I need a little gap. So I'm going to cut this here in half. And then when I come to sewing them together, I'm going to leave a small gap to reverse it. I mean, I could maybe just cut a hole here, but normally I just have 2 pieces. They're not exactly lining up, but hopefully I can just sew here and then trim this excess off. So now we're going to sew the 2 fabrics together. Make sure that the outer fabric, if it has a pattern, is facing the inner fabric like so, because we're going to sew along here and then we're going to turn it inside out. So line it up as carefully as you can. And pin it. Let's see, that line more or less lined up. It's never going to be perfect, especially when I'm doing it. Should do it. So sew along the edge here where we've pinned it. I'm going to do a little back stitch to reinforce it. Remove the pin, so I've done both. So this is the other side. So I've got a small piece of canvas here for the inner pocket, measuring 8 inches by 5.5 inches. So I'm going to sew a neat hem onto this and then sew that onto the inner lining of the bag. So with the edges hemmed, let's sew this to the inner lining of the bag, perhaps 3 inches from the top. And I think 6 inches either side. More or less. And we can pin that. Let's measure that. 3 and 3, 6 and a bit more than the 6, but no one's going to see it, it's fine. So now we've got our cute little pocket, perfect size for an iPhone 11. And now we're going to construct the bag. So now we're going to make the straps for the bag. So I've got my 2 strips here, which I'm going to fold in half lengthways. Iron down the crease to hold it in place. So then I'm going to sew along this edge here and then turn it inside out. This is the worst part of bag making. I find it very fiddly. This is why you have to make these wide enough so you can turn it inside out and pull it through, which I'll show you. Now it's time for the fiddly part. I've got to turn this inside out to make the strap neat and tidy. So let's see how fiddly this is going to be. It's easier if you make the strap wider, but I never seem to make it wide enough. And with a thick fabric like canvas, it's much harder to pull it through. So I use these pliers to help me pull the fabric out. Got 2 straps now, both turned inside out. I'm going to iron them flat. Iron them flat with a seam down the middle. So my straps are 29 inches in length, and in the end they measure, let's see, 1.8 inches in width. So now we need to sew these to the inner lining of the bag, and I'm going to just turn the ends inwards. And just sew along the bottom when I sew them onto the bag. So you can see I need to get a bit of distance on this. I've pinned the strap to the inner lining only. I'm just going to sew it here on the inner lining. 3.5 inches from each side, because then it lines up with the box cut out 3.5. Okay, so we're going to sew a strap to the inner lining. I've got it on tension 4, if that means anything. Remove the pin. Lift the footer up and then swing it around 90 degrees. Footer back down again. And sew along the next edge. Footer up, swing her around. Footer down. Maybe we're going to move that over a little bit. Footer up 90 degrees. Footer down. And then we're going to do a zigzag across to reinforce. Not a zigzag, across basically. So we have our bag halfway done. So what we're going to do now is sew it all together. So we need to sew it inside out, as it were. We need to sew along this end, this edge of the lining, leaving a gap here so we can pull the bag inside out. Sew along this edge, well, all the way along, lining up these seams, but we're not going to sew here. So that's pinned, ready to be sewn. Okay, let's get this bag all sewn up. Once you've sewn the length of the bag, the two parts, the outer lining and the inner lining, you want to sew your box corners. And where you've got your square cut out in the corners, you will want to pin these to make the box corners. So we're going to pull them like this. Try and line it up as neatly as you can. Okay. Just pin that. And the other side, we're going to do all four corners, obviously. think this is the neatest bag I've made so far, because I made sure to take care cutting the fabric quite precisely, so that really helps you later on. Just trim these bits, and then the inner lining. So I've sewn this edge together, leaving a hole which we're going to pull the bag through at the end. Okay, so let's take this to the sewing machine. So that's all sewn now, apart from the hole, which we're going to do after we turn this inside out. And this is the moment of truth, because if I've done anything wrong, this is when we find out. So this is always a little bit nerve-wracking for me, but it's my favourite part because it's really satisfying to see what you've been making come together. So let's get our arm in here and put it inside out. Yeah, there's quite a lot of material to pull through this little hole. Okay. And then we're going to push the lining inside the outer fabric to make the bag. And so far, so good. It looks like a bag, a boxy tote bag with a little pocket. So now I just need to see inside there. I just need to sew this hole up. So I should have done that before actually, but let's pull this out again. Yeah, we're just going to sew along here. So this is the finished product. A beautiful canvas tote bag you can take to the shops, the beach, or give to your mum on her birthday. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Thanks for watching.